That is quite a bit bigger than I was expecting.
Oh, yeah. See,
the middle's quite nice.
The middle's quite nice and quite sweet.
Maybe I should listen to this vet's advice.
Welcome back, viewers. Today I'm back with a popular friend of ours, Ben Dooley. Regulars will recognise Ben from when I visited him and his wife Sarah earlier in the summer. I'm back to see how a little experiment of his has gone since then. I've also got another vet tagging along with me today. Many of you will recognise Sophie Harding, another British vet doing the New Zealand thing. Last time I was here, Ben had loads of grass and not enough animals to eat it. Fast forward a few months and it's been a dry summer, dry for New Zealand at least, and grass growth has dropped while the number and size of hungry mouths has increased. And now this is a really common scenario, and that can easily impact on things that vets then get involved with, like disease or infertility. So that's why Sophie and I are here today, to see how Ben's attempt to solve this mismatch is going. That is, if I can hold on to the back of the quad long enough to get to where we're going.
God, look at that! We're gonna just walk over from here?
That was the right for his life,
Yeah.
right of his life.
Right, here we are. Was it in November we were here last?
End of November, I think it was.
End November, so we're here start of March, and this was just wasn't even sown, was it? It was just bare soil ready to be sown.
That's right.
We got it on the drone. I tried to drive some sheep over here with my drone by accident. But this is what we were talking about. So we'll get a close-up look, but just in one sentence, what's this?
This is maize and Persian clover, which is a summer crop for our use.
Why have you ended up doing that?
So last year we had a drought, a big one for Southland.
Yeah.
And we struggled to feed everything. And lots of people were thinking different ideas and lamb fattening crops, this, that and the other. And my sort of thoughts were, well, bulk feed's cheap to grow, it's easy to grow, and it'll do the use. It might not be great for them, but it's going to sustain them.
So what you're gunning for here is quantity, probably over quantity. Quantity over quality.
Quantity over quality, that's dead right. Something to feed the fatter end of the use.
Yeah.
We can just put them on here, we can hold them here for however long it is. It's a grazing crop, so there is what there is.
And we'll go and have a look into it as well, because it looks pretty impressive. And this is your first time growing maize?
This is our second time growing maize. First time was 1 acre. It was a little bit of an experiment to see what it would do.
Yeah.
And didn't do what we wanted, but it did sort of prove we can grow a huge amount of dry matter in a short amount of time.
Awesome. Should we go and have a look at it?
Might as well.
Right, I've also got Sophie here. So most of you will know Sophie from Instagram. She's a big influencer, working for the same practice at the moment, but such a massive practice. You're about, an hour and a half away?
As far away as possible.
Nice. She drove us over here in the quad and we made it. I've lived a very full life, so I wasn't scared. So I've just left the other two for a second, just to show you how dense this crop is. These ewes are adult animals, they're not growing. They just need enough energy and protein to keep them ticking over. And so he's prioritised quantity over quality. This is what the sheep are going into when Ben moves the fence. And I'm just gonna see how easy it is for me to go through. It's a bit like a jungle, but try not to knock over anything. I mean, you can barely move through it, to be honest, because, let me see. So we've got this maize plant, right? We've got this lovely, essentially a sweet corn plant. That's not yet developed the sweet corn. Here's the tassels, here's the flowers. And then there's what would eventually become the cob that you'd put on your barbecue. There's the lovely leaves. And then, make my way to the undergrowth. You've got all this clover, and this is a particular variety I hadn't come across before called Persian clover. And clover, being a legume, is very high in protein. It traps nitrogen from the air, which is a fantastic thing to do because nitrogen is expensive to buy in and put on the crop. So yeah, this also seems to be climbing. Like, you see this? There's a Persian clover. It's almost climbing up this maize. It's certainly using the maize as a support, if you like. Again, I'm talking as a Northumberland vet. I'm not used to seeing a lot of maize. When I was down in Abergavenny, South Wales, grew a lot of it there, and that was really high. But this is way higher than I am, way taller, I should say. You can say what you like about it, but it's definitely grown the bulk. Like Ben was saying, actually, surprisingly, this clover you see here and here is 40% of the total mass. So anyway, we'll find Ben and Sophie again. Jesus. I made it.
As you can probably make out from the aerial shots, to make best use of this, these ewes aren't given access to the entire paddock at once. Instead, they are grazed section by section using an electric fence, which is moved every 2 days. But before Ben put them onto it, he didn't actually know how well these sheep would take to their new diet. So how much of it are they actually eating?
Ben was just saying that's where they were.
Yep.
This is where they've come on yesterday. So the stalks are definitely longer, so they must sort of eat the good bits,
Yeah.
eat the sweeties, and then you sort of leave them to tidy up a bit. But
You can see now they're all pretty full looking.
yeah,
Now, we are using this as a maintenance ration. We have had bordering on another drought this year, but we have been very short of feed, so we are trying to maximise on this. We haven't got a lot of rough feed left on farm anymore. You can see a thistly patch over here. That's literally the last bit.
okay.
So the whole rest of the farm is like this up here. Short, green, nice tucker. And currently, because these girls aren't on it,
Yeah,
it's growing.
Amazing.
We're gaining length, and that's what we're trying to capitalise on here.
These are also your fatty ewes. We have said that, I think, already.
Probably didn't need to lose any, but when we condition scored them, these are the ones that we would say were over a 3.5. Yeah, but so this is what they've got for the second day.
Yeah.
And they do. They seem, like you look at it right there, they seem to keep chewing away on it. And when you see the actual green feed and what it's like, you'll understand why they go and gorge on it the first day.
You were saying you were hoping maybe some of the Persian clover might stay. It must be delicious because
Yeah,
there's nothing, is there? Like it's
I've got very
pretty bare.
little hope. I'm pretty sure that's it there. Yeah, I'm not confident that's going to come
Not
back.
promising.
It was standing beautifully yesterday when I put it up, and now the sheep have been in here. Considering we've grown this in, let's say, under 100 days, it's impressive. And the density of it in the bottom, like you cannot see bare dirt until they've grazed it, obviously.
No.
Because it's like it just wrapped up to get
Yeah.
the sunlight.
Yeah,
The bees like it.
they do. But so you can see those wee cobs of corn on there.
But that's the biggest one I can see
Yeah.
for March. Like these are tiny. Eh?
And if you open one up and break it in half, like there's very, very little in there. That is quite a bit bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah, but most of them are like that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Most of them are tiny. I've picked the biggest one to see what the crack was with it.
You've put this in to fill this sort of hungry gap. Your main hungry gap's the winter.
Yes.
We talked about that last time, where you're putting all these forage crops. But actually, like you've said, especially with the droughts coming on more and more the last couple of years, you also had a second hungry gap in like the late summer.
Yes, that's right.
So this is where you're bulking out for these ewes, which need the quantity, not necessarily the quality.
As a ewe feed, or if you replace the clover with something else as a feed for beef cattle or dried dairy stock, I think it's got potential. I'm not saying
Are you going to do it again? I think that's the ultimate litmus test.
we need to wait till scanning.
Okay.
We get to scanning. If we find out there's been no adverse effects there, which is going to be a hard one to judge, a couple of dry seasons, but I mean, if we haven't fallen back 20%,
Okay.
then I'll be doing it again.
But I think now you've got the ability now to have a grass growth here, even though you've had a dry period, to flush your ewes
Yes.
because of this.
Absolutely.
So
Yes.
it will be interesting
Yep.
because you should be able to have a nice flush on them.
Did you have to chuck any or much nitrogen on, or urea?
So, no, the only nitrogen it's had, we put 280 kgs to the hectare of crop zeal boron boost, which I think is 16 units of N per 100 kilos.
Because again, plenty of different people watch these videos. Some of you farmers like Ben and know exactly what Ben's talking about. Some people like me sort of know what he's talking about. And some of you will be like non-farmers and know. So nitrogen, really important fertilizer for green leafy growth, right? Nice thing about this is that, see this clover, which we've been talking about? It's a legume. So that does the amazing thing of capturing the nitrogen from the air and basically giving you free nitrogen fertilizer in the ground. It's a really clever plant. So that's why I presume doesn't need much nitrogen after the initial little just tickle to get it going.
Possibly.
I told you I knew sort of what I was talking about.
Few people have spoken to about it. Some people say yes, absolutely, it'll put a heap of nitrogen there for the maize. Other people have said it'll bring a heap of nitrogen in and then use it all itself. But either way, it's free nitrogen, because even if the maize plants aren't getting it, the clover's still getting it.
A lot of people are saying, maize can be quite a destructive plant in some ways with regards to ploughing and your maintenance and putting it in and all that. But obviously here, you're not actually having to harvest it and replough. You've got the sheep bringing it back.
That's the other reason I brought Sophie here, because she's like my maize representative. Because being from working in Northumberland, we don't grow a lot of maize. It's a bit too marginal, I think. Whereas Sophie, working down in the UK, in like Somerset and that sort of area. Was it Somerset?
Yeah, Somerset.
And there you'll grow the farmers will grow heaps of maize, won't they?
Grow a lot of whole crop maize.
So when you say whole crop, they're sort of coming along and they're not grazing it like this. They're getting a tractor and they're cutting it down. They're pickling it in a silage. Real high energy, starchy feed.
And people are doing it with sheep as well now.
Yep.
That's
with maize, yeah.
But what you alluded to just then was that it's not without its detractors, right? Because you can imagine if you're driving a tractor over all this, say it's not a lovely dry day, it's a bit muddy and what have you, you're going to end up with lots of bare soil, potentially lots of runoff. And this is denser, I think. Did you show this denser?
Yes, so if you look at our rows and how far apart they are, if you're doing it for silage, they're going to be twice that far apart.
But at the moment, this looks perfectly dry.
Yeah, it's
lovely.
been amazing conditions.
Yeah.
What's it been? Amazing.
Yeah.
It's a bit corny. I've been waiting half an hour for you to say that.
So, it sounds like a success. These ewes are eating almost down to the ground, so they must like it. We talked a bit about the financials as well, but I'm determined to keep this video to a manageable length, so I might edit that into a small video of its own. Safe to say, Ben grew more feed on less land and for considerably less money than if he were trying to do the conventional thing, that is, fertilise his grass to do the same. To double check that these ewes don't lose too much weight while grazing the maize, Ben has also weighed about 10% of these ewes going onto it. He'll weigh them coming off as well to compare. One thing I think that holds farmers back from trying things like this is that sheep, if introduced to a new diet too quickly or dramatically, can get very sick, even to the point of dying suddenly. Accordingly, there's a big focus on the changeover period, which we often call the transition. So, was Ben worried about that, and what did he do about it if he was?
I'm basically a local vet. I called him up. I do trust his judgment. I said, look, this is what I've got. How far off grass and clover do you think it is as far as the guts goes? And he goes, I think it's grass and clover. So they've actually had no transition. They have just gone on with the full guts. It seems to have worked quite well.
Not taking any ills, no deaths or anything like that?
No, nothing's died. I did come out, I was out here sort of 3 or 4 times a day the first while they were on.
Just stressing out?
Yeah, yeah. Sitting there going, what's going to go wrong? This can't work. Something's got to go bad. And I was watching them, and in one of my own videos I did actually say I came out to let them off. And I was looking at them and they were quite content and quite happy and they had full gutses, and I thought, well, maybe I should listen to this vet's advice.
Yeah. We're going to stop the video there. But you did, and because he is right, and that's you said that to me, and I thought actually it's a really simple way to look at it. You think of maize as a cereal.
Yes.
But at this point, it isn't. You're right. It's just a vegetative plant, isn't it? So, and then it's got clover in it. We know we like clover. It's not a monoculture of either. So it's not, they're getting one intense hit of one. Yes. You're right, it's grass and clover. They're loving those stalks. I can't get over that. Look at that one there. Yeah. It looks so fibrous and like unappetizing, doesn't it?
It's got a reasonable amount of moisture to it though.
Yeah.
Bite of it.
What you guys are looking at is the dried out open.
I suppose this is the bits they're not eating.
Oh, no, see.
The middle's quite nice.
The middle's quite nice and quite sweet. It's the outside bit very fibrous.
It's like tree bark.
This bit inside.
Yeah.
Rock and roll.
Yeah.
Wicked. I think we'll leave it there.
I have seen it written that there is no bigger gamble than sowing a seed and hoping for it to grow. Now Ben's gamble appears to have paid off this time, and without farmers taking this kind of risk, agriculture just wouldn't move forwards. This has allowed him to feed his ewes well, using less land and fewer dollars. And while so much of being a vet remains treating sick animals and routine tasks like scanning, it is so encouraging to see and learn more about how farmers can look after the fundamentals of animal health. And one of those fundamentals is nutrition. At the end of the day, a well-fed animal is far less likely to become a sick one. If you haven't seen the 2 vlogs I did with Ben last year, here they are. The links to both his and Sophie's social media are in the video description. I highly recommend following both of them. Other than that, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and see you for the next one.